How's going? Dusty Bogan here. Got some good news. Australia Day is tomorrow. Best day of the year. It's going to be awesome. And actually, bam, I lodged my application for Australian citizenship. So, can't call me a filthy New Zealander immigrant. Nah. But yeah, it'll be an honour. So we'll see how that goes. It should be fun. Going to have an awesome time. I had a mate message me and he's like, oh, you're coming to the city. There's some Invasion Day rally or protest. So we'll all see that tomorrow. It'll be all over the news. I won't be going. Game of cricket and a swim and a barbecue with family and friends seems a lot better. And all my Aboriginal mates are coming, or the youth boys who, I led, I think from year 9 to year 12. I was there, I think I was there for 6 or 7 years at that youth group, but them particular lads, all good lads, finished school, got jobs, doing well for themselves. And you know what? I think Australia Day, what are we doing? We're celebrating this awesome nation. We're celebrating what we've created, creation of the modern world, a free and awesome nation. You know what I mean? And, I was going through, I was like, I better have a read, because apparently there's some history test you have to do about Australia for the Australian citizenship. So reading, I don't even know if what's relevant to the test yet, because I haven't got it. But yeah, reading a bit about Arthur Phillips, the guy who bought the first, he was the dude who came to make it into a prison colony, and reading all that, that guy, he had a bit of a vision. He was the dude, he wrote bang, what the initial statement and plan for Australia, and he had his statement, Arthur Phillips, saying, this land will be a free land, no slaves will have on this land, anyone who hurts the indigenous people will be hung. So the guy, he had a bit of a good vision there, and he, apparently was supposed to be just for prisoners, but he had a bit more of a vision for making it into a real nation, and he wanted to have a friendship, start something there good with the Aboriginal people. I was reading how he had this connection with Bennelong, one of the Aboriginal local dudes, and he actually kidnapped him in an attempt to build the friendship. Bennelong escaped. And then when he's out hunting one day, he's seen him, and he thought Bennelong was like, yeah, come along. And Bennelong's mate stabbed him, Arthur Phillips, right? But the kind of cool thing is Arthur Phillips didn't retaliate. Obviously, he had he had the power, didn't he? When these Aboriginal warriors, that's what they were. Obviously, pretty fucking brave guys, throwing a bloody, cricket stump at these bloody poms. But, pretty bloody brave, isn't he? And, but he didn't retaliate, Arthur Phillips. He didn't retaliate. Apparently that's when Bennelong they built up a bit of trust there, and they built a friendship. And you know what I mean? I kind of think the early days surrounding that, and that's what Australia's about. It's about the 26th of January, and it's really about Arthur Phillips there and what happened in them early days. And you know what? There was some good and bad there. And I think that, of course, reading about the other parts of the history about Ned Kelly and the Eureka Stockade, of course, there was times where there was some pretty severe, seems what I'd call corruption. You know what I mean? But there was also the free press, and you can read, how much history can we read? And people were writing about, about what was going on, about, all these times these Aboriginal people, there might have been mass murders. There might have been some, guys who had killed Aboriginal people for stealing their cattle or whatever, having, running into each other while they're on Aboriginal hunting grounds, having these run-ins. But there's plenty of write-ups, from these old news articles about what was going on. And, I think it's very interesting, and I think that they're not, it's not like they're undermining Aboriginal people and boasting about murdering. No, it's not. It's the opposite of that. They're like, these are terrible things. This needs to improve. And, you know, that's also goes for like Ned Kelly and Eureka Stockade and part of the history of this nation. It's all very interesting. And I think that, you know, you can't sweep under the rug the bad and just have all the good, can you? You gotta have it all, the truth, and then we've got to say, well, look what we've created together, and we can be proud of that. And I think on this day we can honour. I think there's something where I'd like to keep Australia Day in the 26th. I think it's a good idea. You know, I think just leave it be. There's no point reinventing the wheel. And, you know, Bill Shorten, the left, we have to say it, the left, you know, they brought in the gay vote. They changed the definition. They actually changed the definition of marriage, which was between man and woman. They've changed it. And now we're having them at the Commonwealth Games last year, and they were saying, had a thing to all the employees saying how they should use gender-neutral language. There's a push to take change gender off birth certificates. They're trying to go into Christian schools now and dictate, you know, who they can hire and fire, or who they could expel from their schools. So now, you know, through the reinventing of the wheel to changing all these things, you know, Bill Shorten will be having us driving on like triangle wheels, and you'll be down the road because old Billy Boy, the Labor Green Alliance, who just want to change everything, and they would change the flag, the national anthem, and Australia Day if they could. If you don't say anything. And, you know, it's always played on the heartstring, you know, when they're like, love is love, vote for the gay marriage, love is love. And they play on the heartstrings, and they say to you, well, but don't you think love is love? And everyone's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, right. And they said, I remember when this was all going on, and it was John Howard, Corey Bernardi, Lyle Shelton from the Australian Christian Lobby, Alan Jones, all these people, all the conservative commentators, politicians and journalists, they're all saying, if you're afraid of all the other changes that's going to happen with the gay vote, just vote no. Just vote no. And they weren't really harsh on the gay community or anything like that. That's all they said. Just, you know, if you're a bit afraid, and look what happened. And Bill Shorten and the Labor Green and all these people, even Malcolm Turnbull, but it was like a lefty anyway. You know what they were saying? No, this is all just about giving them the legal right to be married, to the redefinition of what it means to be married. Changed it, but now we see it was the thin end of the wedge. So we've got to be very careful. You've got to be bloody careful, because, you know, few years ago they legalised abortion, didn't they? And they pulled on the heartstrings. Oh, well, you know, these women, they're going to be having abortions anyway, illegally, so you might as well do it legally. And they, you know, they say these things and they have these catchphrases. But now we have full-term abortion in Queensland voted in last year. Anastasia Palaszczuk and Jackie Trad, you know, the bloody goblins. They got green-coloured skin. And what will be next? They're pushing in Perth, the bloody eugenics, the bloody euthanasia. And then what will be next? The thin end of the wedge. One state brings it in, then it rolls across all the states. And next thing you know, it's not for people in palliative care. Next thing you know, you're getting the certificate. Instead of getting congratulations, Dusty, you can now get the pension. Congratulations, Dusty, you're now eligible for your green injection, and you can tap out anytime you like. So they just start to devalue life, and they just want to change everything. And you know what would happen if they changed Australia Day? This flag, which is for everyone who lives in this nation, doesn't matter your heritage, this flag is for Aboriginal people. It's not just for European and people, ancestors were of the first European settlers from the UK. No, from the British Empire. No, it's for all Australians. This is our flag. This is that we have our anthem, and we have our law for all of us, equal and under one law. You know, if Bill Shorten or ScoMo break the law, and we all break the same law. Well, there's one law for all, and we don't need to. You know, we've got such a good thing in this nation. We have democracy. You know, we got freedom of speech. We got all these good things. We have a society that, you know, we judge people on merit. So if you're good enough, you can do it. We've all got access to all these things. Healthcare and education is pretty good. And yes, we trade off a lot of freedom in that. It's like they give you healthcare, and now you have to wear a seatbelt and you have to wear a motorbike helmet, because if you have an accident, we all have to pay for it. So with having these big government programs, there comes also all the other legislation that changes along with it. And I guess that's what we're seeing with the gay marriage. You bring in one thing, you bring in the gay marriage, and everything else changes. Well, you change Australia Day, you bring it to a new day, but is it a national day for all of us to celebrate together, or is it a day just for Aboriginal culture? And then what's the glue for our society? What's the glue for all the people who come here who have different heritage, different religions and philosophies and ideas, might have from different on the political spectrum, but at the moment we all celebrate Australia Day. We have one flag, one nation, and that, I think we got to keep that going. We've got to say no. But what we need to do, maybe if we listen to the Aboriginal people, because I spoke to my Aboriginal mates who came here last year, and I was like, you know, bring your Aboriginal flag. If you want to have a say, if we have a speech, if you want to have a say, you're more than welcome to have a say. And you know what? Like, I spoke to a few of my Aboriginal mates about it, and you know, they were like, oh, you know, there seemed to be a bit of hurt there from history, you know, from the past history, which is completely understandable. But we don't need to promote a victim mentality to the Aboriginal people. We need to remind them that they're warriors, they can do it, they're highly valued and honoured and respected, and that we honour them as, you know, as Australians. We honour them, we respect them. I think on the 26th, to keep it on the 26th, we could be like, hey, we're gonna, you know what, we want to keep it on the 26th, but we're gonna be like, mate, make sure we're inviting our Aboriginal mates to Australia Day barbecues and all this stuff, and having that strong connection and honouring them, loving them. You know, I reckon that's a better way forward. Do you know what I mean? And being like, yeah, mate. Just like the brave dude who chucked the spear into Arthur Phillips was a brave man. Brave warriors, weren't they? So we don't need to say, look at these poor victims. No, that's not good enough. That doesn't help anyone, does it? And you know what? Another interesting thing. I remember last year we went to Stefan Molyneux, Lauren Southern. And, you know, it was an awesome time. And, you know, old Stefan, I like the guy. He has some awesome videos. I really like one particular video is one which is the truth about sex. And he goes through all the stats about, you know, people who have their first sexual encounter and all this, and goes through, you know, from 6, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and it shows, you know, the younger you are, your first sexual encounter, and then the stats it has on your education, your life expectancy, your income, you know, you having a successful marriage and all this stuff. And the stats, it clearly shows, secular studies from universities clearly shows you're better to outwork your sexuality in a conservative way. But now we have a culture they don't look at the facts. They've thrown it out the window, and they're celebrating the sexual minorities and normalising it. You know what I mean? And they're not looking at the facts. We should be promoting, shouldn't we just like, okay, now you have, we have public health care, and now we're told there's also now a tax on cigarettes and a tax on alcohol, and advertisement about wearing a seatbelt and wearing your helmet and don't speed and all this, because the flow-on effect of someone being stupid and living a bad lifestyles, we all got to pay for it. So then they bring in all this other crap. And that's the same thing with, you'd think it would be the same thing with how people outwork their sexuality and their relationships. Do you know what I mean? Because we can see the evidence of it being negative or positive effects in life. And anyway, that's another tangent. But at Stefan, and that's just about Stefan Molyneux, you can watch that video of his. But when he came to Australia, he kind of rubbished the Aboriginal culture, saying like, well, this is what it was like. We have all this historical evidence saying, well, you know, how barbaric our culture was and all that. Well, you know, something I'd like to say would be that, you know what, I think the British, old Britannia was probably a bit barbaric before the Romans got there. Same with the Celtic people, you know, of Ireland. You know, there's historical evidence to suggest that we were quite barbaric. And you know what, I think something that I believe in is that it's when our cultures have encountered challenges like invasions and all these things that we start to critique ourselves and improve. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's true. When you look at like UK, you look at the UK, you look at the British Empire, well, how did they get so good? And I think it was just years and years of constant conflict. First the Romans, and then, you know, you've got the Vikings and the French and civil wars and all this, and it just refining, challenging and battles and wars, hardening the culture, and also rising up a better quality of culture. And that might be, and we can say the same thing in Australia. We learn from our mistakes. We've learned from the good and the bad, and we've improved along the way, and we've built an amazing nation. That goes for all Western nations, and we can be bloody proud of it. Do you know what I mean? And I'd just say, just like Stefan Molyneux, that might have had a bit of a could be an easy shot, taking the easy shot at the Aboriginal people. And I might say, well, looking at the history books, seems like there was pretty barbaric stuff going on in every culture. Do you know what I mean? It takes time for us all to become better for nations and cultures and individual people. So anyway, enough about that. But I'll just encourage everyone, have an awesome Australia Day. And I'll let you know about my citizenship and how it all goes. And the process should be pretty fun. So cheers, eh? Have a good game of cricket and a swim and a barbecue. Cheers, eh?